people that were controversial but powerful and important and underrated. Henry Wallace.
Henry Wallace was probably the only vice president of the United States who people thought of as a radical and a socialist.
Yeah.
He was the vice president under Franklin Roosevelt.
The last term of Roosevelt.
No, the second term of Franklin Roosevelt.
The next to the last term, right.
And then he had been a farmer in Iowa. He was an editor of a farmer's newspaper. He was an agronomist and an economist about agriculture. And Franklin Roosevelt appointed him at first to be Secretary of Agriculture. And he did such a great job, and he was part of sort of the left wing of the New Deal.
Extraordinarily popular with
Yes, he was
farmers
one of the
and all that.
Yes, he was one of the most popular figures in America. And so he was so popular that when Roosevelt ran for his second term, he said, I want this guy to be my vice president. So Henry Wallace became his vice president. And then he became more radical, even more radical. And a lot of the more mainstream Democrats said to Franklin Roosevelt in 1944, you really should get rid of this guy.
Yeah.
And so he did. He made him the Secretary of Commerce, but he didn't give him any power. And so he replaced him with a little-known, ineffectual senator from Missouri named Harry Truman.
Yeah. How did that come about? And didn't that transition happen at the Democratic Convention?
It came about at the 1944 Democratic Party Convention, where the more moderate, middle-of-the-road, mostly big city mayor types didn't want Wallace. They wanted Truman, who had been kind of a hack politician in St. Louis, in Missouri, kind of a tool of the local political machine called the Prendergast machine.
Yeah.
And so when they allowed Wallace to disappear and they brought in Harry Truman.
Didn't they do that over the course of the convention?
Yeah, they did, and people thought that Wallace might have been able to win if it came to a vote, but they maneuvered it. And Roosevelt kind of was passive about it. He didn't want to cause any controversy.
Right. And he was not well at the time.
Right, and he wasn't well. And so, so they got rid of Wallace as vice president. They brought in Franklin Roosevelt. And so in 1948, after being frustrated by Truman not being progressive enough, Wallace ran for president on the Progressive Party ticket, a third party ticket. When he first announced, people thought, oh, he could do pretty well because he's a popular figure. But he got red baited. People said he was a communist or was sympathetic to communism. And he had some very radical ideas. He believed in racial integration. He was pro-union. He believed that we should end the Cold War with the Soviet Union and find ways of mutual cooperation.
And that's considered radical.
Which was very radical back then during the Cold War. And so at the end of the day, he got 2% of the vote. And he disappeared from history and from history books. And so hardly anybody's ever heard of Henry Wallace. But for a number of years in the 30s and 40s, he was among the most famous public figures in America, widely revered. His books were well read, and he was an influential figure in the New Deal.
And really in the history of our country.
Yes, absolutely. But today, invisible.
Yeah.
Unless you read my book.
Yes, that's why they should read your book, right? Yeah.
Yes.